Oh man, I am in Puerto Rico.
Hey, me too. I'm in
again.
Puerto Rico too, dude.
You guys should get together.
We started the podcast in Puerto Rico when I was here, and
Wow.
now I'm back. So
Very nice.
So we've
Are you
lasted.
getting a-
We've lasted until
are you-
the next visit.
Are you getting a second home in Puerto Rico after, now that all the hurricanes have subsided?
Oh, I'm considering it. Definitely, it's so beautiful.
Are you really?
And
I think
we're starting to
Michael
get snow up in Canada now. So
really.
yeah.
Michael,
Apparently
we
you-
should definitely meet up when you are in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I think you're right up there.
Oh, he gives you the unit below him. I see how it is,
Yeah.
VJ. That's what's up.
Michael, do you hear any weird noises coming from your neighbors by any chance?
Every once in a while, I hear a creaking and
Like a
Michael,
stomp?
sobbing,
sobbing
and creaking.
I have one piece of advice. Just make sure you don't open the windows at night.
Oh no, that was when you were on the bugs don't come this high. You were lower. You were before.
Oh, is that why? Yeah, that's it. Man, if only I'd have known.
Yeah. How was your weekend, guys?
Yeah,
Get up to anything exciting?
Oh,
Pretty
man.
good.
Try anything new?
Watching the world events.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
Try not to think about it.
No doubt.
Can't
No
think
doubt.
about things that aren't in my control.
That's actually a really sound thing. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's kind of what I've been dealing with too. It's like I can't control it, so how focusing on it doesn't really. It just brings me down, brings my energy down. It's not.
You guys never saw the little graph that says like, hey, you have a problem, and then there's like two choices, like, can you do something about it? And both of those, like yes or no, go back to like, then don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that meme.
Well,
infographic.
All right, we are in for another episode of our
Yeah.
amazing podcast, the BitBrain Podcast. So
Let's do it,
get
boys.
to it.
Let's get into it.
episode. Mariano, it must be episode 14. Did I say that right? Oh yeah,
14.
episode 14. Everybody, of the BitBrain Podcast,
14,
and make
nice
sure
one.
you like, subscribe, and comment in the section below. You know what's up. You guys know the drill.
Dominic,
yes.
why should people like, subscribe? I mean, of course, it helps with the YouTube video. What's in it for them?
What's in it for them, right? Because this is it's all about contributing, VJ.
Yeah.
Right. So hey, if we're providing value to you guys, you can end up bringing other people to the show so that we can provide value for them as well. So it's just a matter of sharing. Sharing is caring, right? It's what we like to do, is incentivize caring and sharing.
We need to do a share-a-thon where we go for 24 hours straight and just get all the followers we can.
All right. Well,
And also, we might do an airdrop. Who knows?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's right. got teased, baby. Yes.
Right.
So, well, there is a lot of news going on, as always, in the crypto space, right? So, especially today with Caroline Ellison, the Ex-Alameda CEO and SBF's ex. So she's a two-time ex. Takes the stand. So I set balance sheets at the direction of SBF that made Alameda's balances look less risky to investors, Ellison testified. Oh,
It's funny
so-
because I wouldn't be surprised if she got into porn next.
yeah.
Or got an OnlyFans or something.
I mean, with morals and ethics like that, I guess why not, right? It's kind of seems like it's
Get
the
that
next,
third X in there.
It's there you go, dude. Awesome. Yes.
I mean, I would pay.
Didn't even make that connection, dude. I like that. So Caroline Ellison, former CEO of Alameda Research, testified that she committed, which, by the way, Alameda, for those of you guys who don't know, is essentially the hedge fund arm of FTX, testified that she committed fraud at the direction of her ex-boyfriend and former colleague, SBF. So she is the government's highly anticipated star witness in the 6-week trial of SBF. I wonder kind of what deal she cut to roll on SBF, her ex. She was the CEO of Alameda Research. The hedge fund prosecutors say stole billions of dollars from the customer of its sister company, FTX. See, prosecutors began their questioning of Ellison by asking her if she committed crimes, and if so, who she committed them with. She pleaded guilty to fraud and conspiracy charges last year, said she had, and that she had committed them at the direction of Bankman-Fried. I sent balance sheets at the direction of Sam that made Alameda's balances look less risky to investors. Testifying Alameda had taken funds from FTX to make its own investments. Her proximity to SBF's business and personal lives is almost certain to give the jury its closest look yet at the decision-making that led to FTX's epic collapse last November. She has been cooperating with the government since at least December, when she pled guilty to an array of financial crimes stemming from her time at Alameda. What do you guys say about all this stuff, huh? Wow. There she goes. She's rolling.
So I think this just further complicates the things for Mr. SBF, because now you are going to have someone that I think will testify directly against him. Like, she's already doing it, right? Because she pleaded guilty, and I'm sure that this was taken into account in her plea deal, that, well, the things that she would have to answer, and those things that she would have to answer will further complicate Mr. SBF. So yeah, it was the worst girlfriend deal in the world.
What is the what's the term FAFO stand for? Just curious. Well, that's kind of the way I look at it. FAFO. You can Google it.
What is it? FAFO?
FAFO. You never heard of it, Mariano?
No.
Yeah, it's essentially mess around.
I know. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Mess around and find out. So another way to say it is play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Stupid prizes, yeah.
Right? I mean, you if you didn't know it was illegal, fraudulently doctoring balance sheets to make it look less risky to investors, I kind of think you understand that maybe the age of 10 or 12, that's probably not a good move, and could land yourself in some hot water. Well, she's finding that out now.
Definitely.
The unfortunate thing is that she's just, she's based, who knows, maybe she gets a slap on the wrist. Don't know. I don't know if that's been public information yet of what her actual penalty is.
A similar thing could be thought of. Remember the CEO of Theranos that also did, I think, kind of something like that, Elizabeth Holmes. I think she actually, like, they did went to trial. I don't remember how many years did she got, but I mean, similar crime, similar story in a way. Sure, they didn't play with crypto, but analogous in a way.
You guys think, BJ, Michael, you guys got anything?
Yeah, I know. If you look at some of the other testimony that Gary Wang, who's the CTO, was also talking about, there were specific intention to commit crime. They did this allow negative equals zero, which is one of the conditions that they had in code, where Alameda can borrow. Initially it was $1 billion, which was an absurd amount. It will never hit $1 billion. But it did more than $1 billion. And all that funds were coming from customer accounts. So there was intent to commit fraud. And Mariano, you're just framing SBF as a hero and saying it's going to complicate things from SBF. Like, he committed fraud, should be in jail, like anyone else who commits fraud. If you commit fraud, doesn't matter how complicated things are. You need to be punished for things that you're doing which are illegal. And it's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of based on facts. The only person who thinks he's innocent is SBF, and everyone else in his inner circle have pled guilty. We still have to wait until the jury makes a decision, right? You and I are not qualified to be able to decide on this case. However, I do think that there was an intention to commit fraud in every aspects of running FTX.
No, I agree. I was saying it from the defense standpoint, that this makes it more challenging for him to get away free from jail. But yeah, fully agree with you.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not like it's
fuel to the fire. Yeah, it is a good thing. It's basically Elizabeth Holmes in cargo shorts. I can't wait for the movie to come out. This is going to be a really interesting 6-week trial. That's all I have to say right now, but I agree with BJ.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Mariano, I get what you're saying. It's going to be far harder for him to skate, essentially, and he's not skating. I don't see that happening. By the way, Elizabeth Holmes got 9 years. I think 11 and a half
11
years, but she's got,
years
like,
and a half.
Yeah,
I just
but she's
checked
got-
it. 11
but yeah,
years and a half.
Yeah.
But
Which-
how many years did it take them to for her to start her sentence?
I think no, I'm not sure, but she did go to a minimum security prison.
Well, it's called Club Fed for a reason, right? I mean, white collar crimes, they're not maximum security places, maximum security prisons, so they're not having to worry about Bubba, dropping the soap on them and stuff. So
Yeah, I saw that guy Martin Shkreli saying, it's not that bad,
It's not
kind of
that bad.
thing. And
I
he
mean,
was-
because
he was, like,
they
telling
didn't do
SBF.
violent crimes. Sure, they damage a lot of people, but these people, I wouldn't say that they are violent, right? I would not be scared of finding SBF on the street.
No, but I think it's people like him we need to be a little bit more afraid of than the guy on the street, right? Because it's
Really?
they think about it. They present themselves as, oh, I'm an effective altruist, right? I'm for your betterment. I want what's best, right? And they scam everybody under this veil, right? The guy who's a gangbanger, you can tell he's got the teardrop. He's got the teardrop tattoo on his eye, right? You can tell he's a jackass, right?
At least he's being honest.
At least he's being honest and forthright. But it's the sinister ones that camouflage everything, where you can't see it, you can't deduce it. It's not.
At least
on
the homeless
surface.
guy starts screaming at you from 20 feet away.
Exactly. You know to avoid them. You don't know to avoid FTX, right? You don't know to avoid that. He pulls the veil over everyone's eyes, and then takes in all these funds with these unsuspecting customers and deposits. And did anybody know he was going to end up doing what he ended up doing? No, other than the people that were closest to him in his circle. So I think those people are more sinister because they're more unpredictable, right? You can predict the guy with the tattoo on his face what he's more likely going to do, right? But that you can't really do that with the white collar crimes. That's why it's so sinister, and that's why I think that actually the penalty should be stiffer, quite frankly.
Yeah, those low security prisons should be high uncomfort levels.
Yeah, they should mix them in with the general population. Personally, like if that was the consequence, they may, not proven, but they may think twice about doing it. Right?
You throw one violent criminal into that prison, the low security. You just have him roam around. It's like a randomized situation. Every 2 weeks, he stabs somebody. Then they're all watching themselves.
I mean, I think it's a very interesting point that you guys make. But yeah, it's a very argumentative podcast. We have this one today.
Yeah. Well, just curious, Mariano, what is it like in Argentina? Like the corrections in Argentina, is it? Do they stratify like that?
Unfortunately, people do see like prison as a punishment that the person has to suffer, compared perhaps to, and I know this is very utopia-like, but a place that people could reflect on the crimes and be a better person. And because of that, there is no such thing as low security or high security. It's all horrible security, hugely overpopulated things, and bad things happen. But that's how it is here.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe it should be a little bit more like that in the United States. But
I actually don't think so. I would say that there is no place on these type of prisons to like heal yourself and to understand the things that you have done. And I don't know. Yeah. I think violence just makes you more violent.
Yeah, I think largely corrections, when they call it, Federal Corrections Center, it's a misnomer, because it's not correcting you. As we know, implicitly or very explicitly, is that the people you hang around are help kind of make you who you are, right? Mm-hmm. So if you hang around very bad people, you're just gonna become worse, right? And you put all these people in one spot. The likelihood of you coming out reformed or rehabilitated or anything like that, I think, is a very low probability. So, yeah. Anyways, not to take us down another road, but we do have the next topic, which actually relates to SBF, Caroline, FTX, all stuff, is that there's actually a tweet here. Some on-chain data shows that Alameda, which again was the hedge fund arm, sister company of FTX, was responsible for and VJ, I'm going to need your explanation of this, but for minting $39.5 billion of USDT, a number that is 47% of Tether's circulating supply today. A previous report of protests estimated the number at around 36.7 billion. I was able to update these figures. This guy, Connor, was able to update these figures with additional wallets he found. The amount of minted USDT was higher than Alameda's AUM, or assets under management, at the crypto peak, according to SBF data, submitted to Forbes as part of their annual World Billionaires publication. So let's see, getting a read on redemptions is challenging, partly because Tether seems to do off-chain coordination of burns. They don't have deposit addresses. Shops just send funds directly to the treasury. If we assume all USDT redemptions from FTX were from Alameda and not another market maker, then they redeemed 3.9 billion of USDT, most all of it during 2 days in May during the Luna implosion. Okay, who wants to tackle this one first? VJ, do you want it?
So the way that Tether allows minting is that they have these called market makers, even though the traditional definition of market maker is different. In Tether's case, they have these people, market makers, who are third-party entities like exchanges who can create these the Tether equivalent. And a lot of what Tether does is off-chain, so you don't get to see what is happening really, right? We don't know whether an equivalent collateral was deposited with Tether and how this $39 billion of new Tether was created, and if it was created internally for trading within the FTX ecosystem, what are the impacts of it outside? But the bottom line is that it's some amount of Tether which has been created by one of the approved market makers, FTX, and we don't know at this point in time whether there is enough assets backing the minting of the Tether.
Very interesting, yeah.
You have anything to comment on that, Mariano?
So I have a very, very unpopular opinion, highly controversial one, which is Tether works because nobody knows how it works. So because it's sketchy and it's like corrupt and there are all these myths about it, like no one can really tell when Tether is in problems, right? And I'm going to explain it to like with this example, right? So remember with USDC, when Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, like people were fearing that USDC, which had assets deposited in that bank, were going to suffer like a tremendous loss. It was going to be depegged, and it actually did got depegged for like 11 cents. I think that was the max pain. Whereas since nobody really understands where Tether is holding its cash and how is it holding it, then like there's no problem. The same, like I feel like the fact that it's so mysterious about how it works is exactly what it gives them the protection that they have, and that it never fails, and that for some reason is the biggest stablecoin in the whole crypto world.
And it's become entrenched, right? It's got a network effect now of entrenchment because it's been around so long, right? So there's almost like this implicit guarantee that everybody, which we know what an implicit guarantee feels like, right?
Oh, like a moat, you mean?
Yeah, like they got like a moat because they're so well established now. They've got a network effect because so many people hold their asset, and because there's such widespread utility. I mean, most of the pairs on centralized exchanges are what USDT pairs, right? So you know, you've essentially, they've got such a head start. You know, I mean, it'd be great to just be able to turn on a printing press. You know, all of us would be nice to be able to like, oh, let's just create a stable coin and just, you know, turn on a printing press. But we don't have the head start that Tether does, right? And I think, VJ, you did talk about on an earlier podcast where how they've now taken a lot of their assets and been able to buy U.S. treasuries with them. And so they're effectively earning a yield on that. And now maybe, who knows, it's partially backed or fully backed at this point, but nobody really knows. To your point, Mariano, as far as is it like there's no transparency. So I, for one, still feel I personally feel a little bit nervous holding Tether for any sort of length of period of time. So yeah, it's just this is a really it's a really interesting kind of dynamic in the crypto space. And you know, I don't think one that's great for the long-term utility and viability of the space if we're relying on Tether to be stable or secure.
Yeah, there is in Tether's case, there is not much transparency, and because of the way that Tether is redeemed and how it's burnt, we don't know what's all the stuff that's happening behind the scene. So there is not accurate detail about what actually happened with Alameda in terms of whether they're able to redeem USDT for USD. So that is not very clear. Asking for transparency from Tether, right? Like, I don't know if they're going to have more transparency around it. They have not been transparent to begin. There was also another article by Protos. This was maybe a year or two ago, where they talked about how 70% of Tether issued were from two companies, right? One is Alameda and another is Cumberland Global. So we don't know the solvency of Tether. Tether always had a question mark hanging around their head, around the validity of their claims that Tether is backed 1-to-1. There was some report that we talked about in our previous where they have claimed to have those assets, but let's see where those assets are. Let's make it very transparent.
So this is the one you're talking about.
Make it kind of story.
Yeah, this is the one you're talking about, right, BJ?
Yes.
Whole Tether papers, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. That came out in November of 2021, and how there is they minted about $36 billion of USDT, and then the other update that was from a Twitter user that now there is enough knowledge and evidence that Alameda is making all kinds of shady deals with FTX. And they use customer funds to cover their deposit and or cover their losses. And Tether never did an independent audit. Did Alameda actually have the $37 billion in cash at some point in time? In the case so far that we have seen, there has been no mention at all about the $37 billion that was minted. So we have to wait to see if any evidence of this is being presented by the prosecutors around, hey, where is this $40 billion, right? How come there is a stock of $8 billion that they were shortfall of, but where did this $40 billion come from? We need to be able to answer those questions.
Wow, Vijay, this is, no doubt. I'm hoping some of this damning information comes out during the trial. That's why I think this trial is so interesting. So what are we on day 5 of how many days is this trial supposed to be? I think Mariano, you had said something. 6 weeks, Michael?
6 weeks, just 6 weeks? No, that's quite, I thought it was going to be months, because when it's like financial crimes, they do take a lot of time.
Yeah. So Tether is surprisingly enough, they are able to go from one controversy to another without getting affected by it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
The analogy
they're always on the periphery.
Indian sages who sleep on a bed of nail, right? If you have one nail and you step on it, it's going to go through your feet. But if you have an entire bed of nails, you can have a very comfortable night's sleep on the bed of nails because your body weight is distributed. Not any one of those nails can penetrate and poke through. I guess that's also the Donald Trump defense strategy. Any one of the nails could have potentially derailed any other presidential candidate, but Donald Trump has enough of these nails that people don't know where to look at. And same with Tether. Crazy how many controversies that they have, and their eventual downfall will be glorious to watch. And
Michael, I'm now concerned a little bit about what that.
Witness that.
Michael, I'm now concerned a little bit about what that bed looks like in your room. You sleeping on a bed of nails? Are you down there?
Your nails. Your nails. No, he just has me on the floor.
Oh my goodness, awesome. Well, so let's go to the next story, guys. A U.S. judge has actually denied the SEC's attempt to appeal the Ripple ruling. As we know, the SEC, judge ruled on this case a couple months ago. The U.S. judge denied an attempt by the SEC to appeal a ruling that digital tokens are not securities when sold to the general public, another blow to the agency's efforts to rein in the industry. We like to see that, by the way. We like to see multiple blows to the SEC. Federal Judge Annalisa Torres in the Southern District of New York issued her decision Wednesday in a case involving Ripple Labs and its XRP token, saying there's no substantial ground for a difference of opinion about her findings. Torres was the judge who ruled in July that XRP was a security only when sold to institutional investors. The sale of XRP on public exchanges to retail customers, she said in July, did comply with federal securities laws. Her initial ruling was hailed as a victory in the crypto world, and her decision on Wednesday to deny the SEC's appeal was also celebrated by some industry participants. Wow, good stuff, guys. So what do we think about this? Another quiver in our arrow, another arrow in our quiver for this space, or what?
Since the start of the year, the SEC has been on a campaign to essentially go after all crypto companies, right? Bringing charges after major exchanges, including Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, Gemini. So they're just having a massive attack. They have gone after celebrities. They have gone after some of the NFT projects that we had talked about before. So they are obviously making it very difficult for any crypto company to operate in the US. But despite these efforts, glad that we have the checks and balances. It's not any one agency that have the authority for ruling of the law. That should be decided by the Congress and argued in courts. It's good that the SEC has been losing in courts, right? In July, SEC lost a lawsuit against Ripple, we talked about it. And then the SEC had another setback, that they were this week when the judge refused to let the agency appeal the decision that the judge made. So that is good from an industry perspective, that the SEC cannot be making up rules arbitrarily and going after all these companies without defining the rules.
Yeah, it goes to show you, when you stand up for yourself, you'll come through on the other side. It seems like the SEC is like a bunch of children playing with jigsaw puzzles and throwing paint at the wall, and it's nice to see them get spanked every once in a while. But also, I think this will cause them to go after people, like Ashton Kutcher and Mila again, go after that low-hanging fruit, people who really just can't afford to fight and who will just pay up. And that's really how they get the resources to continue, playing in the sand.
Which I think is interesting because, the Ashton Kutchers and the Mila Kunis and the Tom Bilyeu's, they have the money to fight, right? So it would be nice to see these groups fight against them to give them more losses, presumably, right? It's like don't bend to these guys just because of what they're now. Obviously, each case is unique. Maybe there was some culpability on the behalf of these other different NFT groups, right? So I don't want to kind of lump them on all in with one another. But the point is, I think we can all agree on is that the SEC is certainly take a hardline approach, and it's really created a untenable environment in this country as it relates to crypto and crypto innovation. And so I think you can largely charge the SEC with that. And it's just really unfortunate. So would like to see a little bit more of a pushback to get them reeling even further, frankly.
Yeah. So Dominic, the scale in which these lawsuits happen, it's in the tens of millions of dollars, right? Yes, Ashton Kutcher has some money, right? Like Tom Bilyeu has some money, but this is not enough money to fight against the SEC. Mm-hmm. Coinbase is taking the fight. They have a lot of backing, and it is being able to find the right people and know what you are fighting for. So it's not as easy as saying, hey, these guys should be fighting, because the outcome is very unclear. Even if they fight, it's not very clear they're going to win or not. And at the end of the day, lawyers end up making all the money. So it's not as simple as somebody taking a stand. Maybe someone like Coinbase taking a stand makes sense.
Maybe we need to
Yeah.
create a DAO. Maybe we need to create a DAO to fight the SEC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We all
I'm sure
fund.
that's
We all
a very
fund
good
it.
thought, yeah.
We all fund it, and it is to take on and bury the SEC, and put them in their place.
Even if they could afford it, like these guys are doing work. Like they're trying to build their projects. You don't want to get in a scrap fight with the SEC and be in court for months just to take a stand. You want to just get rid of them, and if you have the resources to keep pushing forward with your project, then that's of interest, right? It's better use of time in that case.
I agree.
Indeed. Well, next topic is also another good topic, or I should say a bullish topic for some comments made by an ex-BlackRock director. Says the SEC will approve a Bitcoin ETF in 3 to 6 months. I feel like the timelines keeps getting accelerated with each Pausing Bitbrain podcast, right? Every podcast we do, correlation is not causation. I understand that. But so 2 former managing directors at BlackRock say that a U.S. approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF is basically a done deal. Former BlackRock managing director Stephen Schoenfield, who's now the CEO of Market Vector Indexes, gives the U.S. SEC Commission 3 to 6 months before it approves a Bitcoin spot ETF. Schoenfield gave his estimate during a panel discussion on ETFs at CC Data's Digital Asset Summit in London yesterday, where he was joined by another ex-BlackRock director, Martin Bednall, now CEO of Jacoby Asset Management. And Schoenfield was responding to comments made earlier by Bednall that the SEC will probably approve all ETF applications at the same time, which is interesting, not favoring one or the other. I don't think they want to give anybody first mover advantage. I think that's great. Previously, the Market Vector CEO said he would have given the industry 9 to 12 months before an approval, but the SEC's recent decision to delay giving verdicts on several pending ETF applications is unlike previous delaying tactics by the regulator. Oh, so they have delayed tactics. Oh, okay. So what do you guys think? This is good. This is good news, potentially, right?
Yeah, it's pretty in line with what we were talking about before. We were saying in January something was going to happen because of Cathie Wood's ARK Investments. So yeah, this is sort of just in line with how I think we're already feeling.
I would be very interested in knowing how Bitcoin futures are being priced in right now for the next 3 to 6 months, and actually options, like how maybe that could be a play, because we might think that in the next 6 months an ETF will happen, but of course we don't know for sure. So buying an option a little bit out of the money for, I don't know, for the next like 8 months could be an interesting play to play. I will need to look into which market a little bit, because options are very illiquid in crypto. But yeah, I'll look into it.
Cool.
Yeah, these are ex-directors at BlackRock, so I would take what they say with a grain of salt. I honestly don't know if 3 to 6 months is a realistic timeline. We've been having the conversation about Bitcoin ETF for probably close to 7 years now. The very first one was filed almost in 2015 or 2016. And the first futures ETF didn't get approved until 2021. So personally, I don't know whether the 3 to 6 month timing is appropriate. However, there are lots of underlying regulatory clarity that is been coming on. We talked about the in one of the previous podcast that the FASB, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, talking about a new set of accounts for these crypto companies. That is a very positive step in the direction. And it's also a very positive step for a lot of companies involved in crypto space, including miners and also ETFs. Because before the financial accounting standards, say a company like Tesla, they buy Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin is say worth $1 billion. If the Bitcoin drops 10% in value, say it's now worth 900 million, then they have to account for the 900 million as the value of the asset. But if it goes up again, say it goes back to, it goes up 20%, right? And it goes to 120,000 or something like that. They cannot record the 20 million in profit until they sell it. So the FASB standards has been very much a boon to a lot of companies that are holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And whether it is BlackRock or whether it's ARK Invest with Cathie Woods, whether it's Grayscale, GBTC, whether they do the conversion, Bitcoin ETF is inevitable. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if. Personally, I don't know about the 3 to 6 month time. It might happen, it may not happen. I don't know. But over the long period of time, if I think over the next 5 years, right, is there going to be a Bitcoin spot ETF? The answer is absolute yes. And similar to what happened to gold, if you look at gold before the launch of gold ETF, people have to go, right? You have to buy gold and you have to bury it in your backyard. It's not very easy to store a large amount of gold. And it wasn't ready from an institutional perspective. Once the gold ETF launched, then it made it easy for any fund, family office to be able to participate in that. So similarly, we're going to see the Bitcoin adoption increasing once we have a Bitcoin ETF launch.
Well, speaking of storage, Vijay, speaking of storing all that Bitcoin, looks like Jack Dorsey has a Bitcoin hardware wallet, and that wallet will apparently use fingerprint authentication. Now, I don't know why Bitcoin Magazine chose to use a picture of Jack Dorsey where it looks like he's 12 years old, but nevertheless, Dorsey's block. Like, could you find a newer, more recent picture?
You shaved the beard.
Dorsey's block plans to leverage a fingerprint sensor instead of a password or seed phrase to secure your Bitcoin. Fingerprints will be the main authentication mechanism of the upcoming Bitcoin hardware wallet from Block, right? The financial services company led by Jack Dorsey and previously known as Square. We believe pins, passwords, and seed phrases are confusing and often not secure given the workarounds normal people have given all the friction. Instead, to achieve seamless authentication in practice, we plan to incorporate a fingerprint sensor into the hardware wallet. Block acknowledges this approach has its own trade-offs, but claimed it would increase security against theft or misuse of the hardware wallet. I think that's debatable. What do you guys think?
Yeah, you know, fingers can get cut off, fingerprints can change. All sorts of problems can happen with that. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot easier to come into someone's house and say, "Where's your hardware wallet? Give me your finger." Yeah, just give us your hand.
Yeah, and that's the pacifist route that doesn't involve knives, you know. And then I agree. Also, I read somewhere that it's actually a myth that two like fingerprints are not equal. Like that apparently is like it's a lie. It's a commonly stated lie. That
you mean I'm not a unique snowflake?
You're not a unique snowflake.
You might be.
You are for us.
You might be on your own continent. You know.
Now everyone has my hardware password.
If that's the case, then all these places like Clear using biometric data and all that kind of stuff is going to be a problem. So,
I mean, with the fingerprints, I think it is a problem. For example, with eyes, you know, like the retina, that's actually different because if they take out your eye, it dies somehow, right? So it doesn't really work. But imagine if, you know, you can get like accidentally chemically burned your fingertips and then like what? Your wallet is gone?
Yep.
So, the interesting thing about this is, does it actually increase adoption though? Right. So what does this do for, because as flawed as this is, and I do think it's flawed because I think it's going to result in a lot of fingers getting chopped off. But like the other thing too, is that we've seen how difficult it is for a lot of people to grasp the idea of a seed phrase, of the fact that the seed phrase is not stored in the device, right? How, you know, the backups, the 2FAs, all that kind of stuff. For a lot of people, it seems to be somewhat of an insurmountable hump for people to really to cross, or a chasm that is just really too wide. And you're starting, you know, you see all these hacks. You see a lot of people that are losing their private keys, even still today. You know, you see otherwise sophisticated people getting hacked. You see otherwise sophisticated people, you know, losing their seed phrases. So I like that there's at least creating an option, but the option does have some drawbacks, and there is just no, at this point, real great solution that I believe is scalable. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, so a couple of points to make here. Number one, if you look at, Jack Dorsey with Square kind of democratized the process of being able to have a credit card scanner, right? Created this device which you can plug into your phone, and now you can start accepting credit cards, empowered everyone around the farmers market, like people who have been doing cash transactions, for them to accept crypto. So he has a very innate idea, insight into what hardware works and how to make that process very simple. There were a lot of naysayers when Square first launched, saying that, oh, no, you're taking a credit card skimming device, which is what it is. No, they took a credit card skimming device, and but they put together a legit business model behind it and a legit business use case behind it. And now Square is a multi-billion-dollar company, publicly traded. I do believe that there is going to be innovations in terms of how we interact with these digital assets, in terms of how we have custody of these assets, the usability piece of it, how to make it very usable, how to make it user-friendly so that people who don't have to understand about the seed phrases and private keys and all the other things to be able to participate in the ecosystem. So more secure users onboarded in a friendly manner, all for it. And lastly, if you look at the hardware device itself, I do agree, right? The people sometimes confuse the username and password. So the fingerprint is more of a username, right? That is your username. It tells you, okay, the fingerprint means that, okay, this fingerprint most likely is VJ. People have used email address as the username, right? Your email address, right? That's an email address that you're associated with. It's unique, and that is your username. So similarly, fingerprint is unique. That's your username, but it cannot be used as a password. So we'll have to look into some of the recovery mechanism of what happens if, in case you accidentally forget or your fingers get chopped off. The challenge with biometrics is that you cannot revoke it remotely, right? Say something happens. If your fingerprint gets doxed, so to speak, if someone lifts your fingerprint and makes it available online, then that's it, right? How do you change? You cannot change your username and or
10 fingers.
The username, but people associate with password. And if your password gets released, you cannot change that. So we need to think about all the ways of utilizing the fingerprint and how it's used. Is it used as a username or is it used as a password?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to
couldn't agree more.
To unfold. Yeah, that'll be interesting as it unfolds. So
guys using their toes.
What's that, Michael?
You'll have guys using their toe prints.
Really?
Are those unique, Mariano? Are those unique? Have we checked? Toe prints?
Maybe. There are not enough. There is not enough studies on feet.
The feet, man. They don't get the acclaim that the fingers do. What can you say?
Which finger do you want to take from me, man? I'm not telling you which one it is.
Oh, good Lord. So, okay.
The hardware itself looks futuristic.
What's that?
The hardware itself looks futuristic.
Yeah.
There was a picture of the hardware that they posted online.
I like it.
And
but
this came out almost a year ago.
It looks like
I don't know
something.
where they are right now.
Hold on.
It looks like something you could find on the beach by accident. It's like a rock. Imagine if you throw it away by accident.
You skip it in the lake.
You skip it.
I'm sure if we tell Mr. Beast for putting $1 million of
put $1 million inside this and throws it between all other rocks. You have 1 hour to find it.
And then you have to find it. Yeah, that will be a great Mr. Beast video. Yeah.
Who's Mr. Beast? Just kidding. So, hey, there's got to be one. There's got to be one that says it. So, all right. Our next topic, guys, is Sam Altman, who we know is the CEO and founder of OpenAI, which ChatGPT. He warns that the U.S. government is waging war on Bitcoin and crypto. Says there's a clear role for regulation. So,
I still see the other page, Dom, the hardware wallet page.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Oops. There we go.
There you go.
Good call on that. Thank you. So, all right. So, in a new interview on the Joe Rogan Experience, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says that the government's actions against digital assets are upsetting, but adds that there is a clear role for regulation within the industry. I am very worried about how far the surveillance state could go. But in a world where payments, for example, are no longer bags of cash, but done somehow digitally, somebody, even if you're using Bitcoin, can watch those flows. I think that's a corruption-reducing thing. There are many things that I'm disappointed that the U.S. government has done recently, but the war on crypto, is like, we can't give this up, so let's control it. That's the thing that makes me quite sad about the country. However, Altman goes on to say that he's not anti-regulation, citing the multi-billion-dollar collapse of FTX's example of why they're needed. I'm not anti-regulation. I think there's clearly a role for it, and I also think that FTX was sort of comically bad situation. So once again, FTX emerging from the ashes here. Altman, who started the identity-based, it's worth noting, however, Altman, who started the identity-based crypto project WorldCoin, which Mariano's a fan of, also says that the existence of cryptocurrencies not controlled by governments like Bitcoin is a huge technological step for mankind. So yeah, that's yeah. So he kind of is saying what I think that most of us feel, not anti-regulation necessarily, but just sees that the U.S. government is essentially taking a hard and fast approach as it pertains to crypto, which is not unexpected. So what do you guys think?
You just reminded me to exchange my WorldCoin bonus. Just thank you for that.
You're very welcome. What can I say? You guys got any comments on
What is the
this?
old saying, pot calling the kettle black, right? He violated all regulations as it exists today. And he's worried about future regulation. I'm like, come on, man.
Well, yeah, because wasn't he essentially standing there saying we need AI regulation? Right, VJ?
Yeah, that was Sam Altman.
Yeah.
All these people are playing like master 3D chess, right? They want to have, the systems regulated so they can be the only ones who have the authority for being able to regulate. Yeah.
Yeah, they get first mover advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they get first mover advantage, but now they say, okay, well, we're the experts here, but you need to regulate this, otherwise this technology can get out of hand. Oh, meanwhile, you've got first mover advantage, and now you're just essentially, and what is that? Corporatism, cronyism, fascism, where it's effectively what we have in the United States is all these big, huge corporate S&P 500, corporate America essentially become the titans of their industry, and then they build a moat around themselves legislatively. So now there's nobody can get as big as them, so it effectively thwarts any of the competition. I mean, it's sickening, but that's the way, unfortunately, our world works, and then we call it capitalism, which it's not really capitalism at all.
Yeah,
it's corporatism. But yeah, that's effectively what we say. I'm not anti-regulation, so yeah, like I would say, take a grain of salt with what Sam Altman is saying here. Personally, what do you guys think?
But he's also saying it's a surveillance nature of the U.S. They're kind of going a little bit far and overreaching. And if he is right about that, ultimately, you're just going to experience brain drain. People will just go somewhere else to set up their business. And then over time, the U.S. is going to feel the lack of that innovation. And then they might change their tune if they do decide to go down that path at that point. But
yeah, I agree with you on that point, Michael. I feel like ultimately, technology has the power in this sense, right? If you cannot find a place that you can call home, that they treat you well, then just find another one. What's the problem?
Yeah. Well, technology.
Do you regulate technology, or does technology regulate you?
Sorry, well, I was going to say, I think technology exhibits the kind of flow that money does, right? Money goes where it's treated best.
Tax havens, right?
Yeah, it goes where it's treated best. Technology, if you're a technology builder, look where you're treated best. I mean, you've already seen with companies that were based in California that are now leaving California because they're not treated best there anymore, right? There's a guy on YouTube or whatever that talks about this, as it pertains to domiciling your business or domiciling your life. And what's his name? I can't remember his name, but the nomad capitalist or whatever. But he talks about go where you're treated best, right? And it absolutely makes sense. And I think we need to start thinking about that, is that the United States does not have a monopoly on, this is the best place, right? Like there's so many more nuanced ways in which to look at that, like through a prism anymore. And if you're a crypto investor and you're going to hyper regulate crypto, and your very livelihood is generated by that industry, you got to think twice about being here, right? And I already know a lot of people that feel that way inside this industry, as it's been over a decade now, and we still have no visibility on any sort of regulatory framework in this country. And the absence of that is causing a lot of people, brilliant minds, unfortunately, to move offshore. It just is. So, but billionaire Paul Tudor Jones is backing Bitcoin and gold as geopolitical risks are rising. So for those of you that have been in a cave for the last 48, 72 hours, as there's been a huge, enormous, unfortunate event that occurred in the Middle East. And, you compound that with what's going on in the war in Ukraine. That's what's the rise of this comet, presumably, which is, Paul Tudor Jones has said the U.S. is moving towards an untenable fiscal position. So essentially, you've got this geopolitical environment when the U.S. is, at debt with all-time highs. So hedge fund giant Paul Tudor Jones said on Tuesday that the combination of extensive geopolitical risk and rising U.S. government debt levels make it difficult to own stocks, but that Bitcoin and gold are attractive options. It's nice that he's acknowledging that. I like to see someone of his caliber say that publicly. This might be the most threatening geopolitical environment I've ever seen. He also took note of the U.S. fiscal position, calling it the weakest since at least World War II. Wow. As interest rates go up in the United States, you get in this vicious circle where higher interest rates cause higher funding rates, cause higher debt issuance, which causes further bond liquidation, which causes higher rates, which puts us in an untenable fiscal position. I can't love stocks, he said, but I love Bitcoin and gold. Jones first made known his bullishness of Bitcoin in May 2020, saying then he had put 1% to 2% of his assets into crypto. A year later, he said he wanted an allocation of 5% Bitcoin. So very interesting, and in my view, not surprising. What do you guys think about these comments from Paul Tudor Jones?
So Paul Tudor Jones is more of a macroeconomic investor and looks at the macro condition. And if you look at the reasons why he is recommending Bitcoin and gold, is because of the threat of recession, right? Because of the global geopolitical instability, also recession. He puts a recession at around probably sometime earlier next year, Q1, Q2 of next year. And if we get into a recession, there is going to be a pullback in the stock market, probably like 10-15% pullback in the stock market, which is a lot. When that happens, when there is a pullback, there is going to be a pullback across all asset classes, regardless of whether gold or Bitcoin. But he considers Bitcoin and gold as more of insurance hedge against the geopolitical instability. So that's his take on it.
Yeah. Anybody else first want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if it does pull back, just like when COVID happened, we pulled back, recovered really fast, and then the months following that, we crawled back up. So, I'm not saying I'm looking forward to it, but there's going to be a big crash at some point, and then we're onto the recovery again, as far as the market side of things.
Yeah.
So, there is a recency bias. We do think that what happened recently tend to happen again. But the recession is different. Like, look what happened in 2008. 2008 was a recession, and we didn't hit the market until maybe 2012 or so. Maybe 4 years went by before the market hit a stride. The COVID one was an anomaly. We had a global panic. No one knew what was happening. And the government money printer went on overdrive. I think we overestimated the amount of liquidity that we would need, and we printed a lot more money than what is needed right now. And that is the cause of this, the impact of it that we are seeing. And once you get on this treadmill of money printing, there is no way to get off. So there is going to be another crisis that needs to happen. And then the Federal Reserve can be the hero. They'll jump in with their money printer and save the world. But we need to get to the brink before
Again.
they jump in with the money printer. They're not going to start turning on the money printing so easily.
Well, yeah, I think the other issue with that is that we have to kind of look at things from the context of a cycle, right? And for those of you guys that are familiar with the long-term debt cycle that Ray Dalio talks a lot about, is that, you know, when the nation becomes overly indebted, like the U.S. is, and when we have internal political conflict, like we have, and we have external geopolitical conflict, like we have, it makes the buyers of your debt become a little bit more apprehensive. And so that's actually started to occur already, where you have less buyers showing up at the Treasury bond auctions, which is why 10-year notes are starting to increase, which is why mortgage rates are attached to that. And mortgage rates have started to increase, making it more and more difficult for people to qualify for a loan or afford a home. And so you got this entire cycle, and then you've got now maybe unemployment raising in the midst of all of this, and then it's, you know, now your currency is a little bit less stable. So where this is within the cycle, I think, is absolutely critical. You know, we can surmise that, okay, if we see a recession, the stock market retraces 10-20%. Then what is the Fed likely to do? Well, the Fed's likely to, you know, reduce rates again. And then maybe if it's severe enough, we start a fiscal policy where they have to print more money. But there's only so many times that they can continue to do this. And the longer we go into the cycle, the longer we go and we debase our currency even more, the more geopolitical risk, the more foreign buyers don't show up for the Treasury auctions, the more we have to monetize it, and the more we start to look like Argentina. No offense. Mariano, but for a country like the United States that has a world reserve currency to be, you know, really at the degree that we're at I believe is very, very, like Paul Tudor Jones says, untenable. It's interesting that we're living through these times. It's sad that we're living through these times, and to a degree, depending on where your focus is. But man, this could get really hairy really quickly from a financial position, given everything that's going on from a geopolitical perspective, from an internal, you know, the United States, from a civility perspective. These are very interesting times that we're living in. And let's just say that I think that there's going to be more chaos. There's going to be more volatility, and, you know, prepare. So I think Bitcoin is a great hedge for that, personally, like Paul Tudor Jones is saying here. But man, it's just that this is a very unsettling time period in history.
Definitely.
Totally.
So speaking of a little bit of unemployment, we're going to close up today with another with a story.
Oh no!
NFT creator Yuga Labs is confirming layoffs as sector value plummets, which is not a surprise to any of us, I don't think. Yuga Labs soared in value amid the hype surrounding NFTs, but a recent report suggests 95%, okay, we're seeing it represented like that, of these digital tokens are now effectively worthless. Yuga Labs, the startup behind the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFTs, has announced it is eliminating a number of roles across its company as a start of restructuring period. Let's see, does it say how many? Okay, yeah, so still has more than 120. Okay, they still have 120 employees. I'm not seeing where they actually share how many people they're laying off. But nevertheless, there's layoffs happening. Okay. Oh yeah, it's unclear how many staff members are being cut from the layoffs, but the founder Grace Law says it has more than 120 employees. Well, that still layoffs are. I think it might be the beginning of that. So, Michael, do you have any particular comments on this?
Yeah, you might be right. It might be the beginning of that. They made too much money too fast. They got overzealous. They started tons of different projects, different games, different brand deals. I think they just spread themselves way too thin, and they weren't able to do some quality control on their standards of what they were delivering. So I think this is just a conscious move to dial it back. They got like a pretty much unlimited war chest, at least buffer for many, many years. So ultimately, I think this is a good thing. It'll have them be more focused. I'm sure they're leveraging AI tools to get more productivity out of each of their employees. So yeah, this is, I think, positive, even though the NFT space in general is quite negative right now.
Michael, do you still own your Bored Ape?
No, I sold my Bored Ape.
When?
Yeah. A while ago, last November or something like that. So before it really crashed, I got out of there. Yeah.
Good timing.
Yeah, no kidding. Before FTX.
Yeah.
So
I cashed out of my Bored Ape and put it all on FTX.
That reminds me of like the guy that. Do you guys know the guy that
the worst
Luna?
portfolio? Oh no.
The guy that shorted Luna, right? And he had leverage short on Luna, and he made like 50 million, 60 million for his fund. I remember running into him at the conference last year. I met him, and then he had most of it all in FTX.
No.
Yeah. Gallios Capital, right?
Gallios. Yeah. So he literally had most of his funds on FTX. So imagine having a win like that, and then literally not diversifying your assets across multiple exchanges and having them all on an FTX, the exchange.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
That shows you that like everyone could have fallen for it, right? Like this guy is probably one of the smartest persons in the world, and he fell for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with Yuga Labs, right, the company behind Bored Apes, they raised $450 million from Andreessen Horowitz and others just last year, right? So it's been like little more than a year. So they have plenty of money, regardless of how you look at it. They have plenty of money to have to be able to weather any kind of storms. Michael, you might have more information about what's happening with Bored Ape. But maybe this provides them an opportunity to focus on the core of the business and stop some of the other like brand building and other things, which doesn't have a direct impact to the bottom line.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I remember having, just speaking of Tether, I had like a loan out on Tether when all that went down, and I was able to go get my ETH back and transfer it out of Tether while it was all sort of crumbling down. I had to go through like 3 or 4 bridges, but I ended up making some money out of that as well. Not a ton, but it was nice that I had a loan and I was able to basically pay back in not Tether, in Terra Luna.
Okay, Terra Luna. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So it was like pennies on the dollar paying back this loan to get my ETH back. It's crazy.
God,
yeah.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Yeah. I don't know if my heart can handle that. So any parting shots, guys, as we tie a bow on this one, and make sure everybody like, subscribe, and comment below, but any parting shots, Mariano, Michael, VJ, anything to add as we put a bow on this baby?
There is no such thing as guarantees. Like when we talk about, this is guaranteed, the market, that's going to happen. The only guarantee in life is that you're going to die. So the rest is
and taxes.
And taxes.
Yeah.
And change. I should say and change. The change is guaranteed.
So people who are in crypto, they don't want to hear this, but make sure you're paying your taxes. The deadline is coming up in the next 5 days or so. In case you file for an extension, death and taxes unavoidable. Get an extension, but you cannot, not pay taxes, right? So tax optimization is always welcome. Tax evasion is a crime. So make sure you're optimizing the taxes and not trying to not pay for it.
I'll just say stay resilient and stay adaptable as things change.
Awesome. Okay. Sage advice, everybody. Well, thank you again for joining us for episode 14 of the BitBrain Podcast. Everybody enjoy. We'll see you next week.